proceed to educate you guys on the English language by giving you guys a couple of new words. So, they're better at doing it than us, of course. So we will hand the stream over to them, and let's hope these guys have a good time.
they're about ready.
I think they are. I think they're just about ready to do this. So we'll see you guys on the other side. We hope you guys enjoy this learning experience, and just enjoy, all right?
Oh, yes, of course. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode here, of course, yes.
Of course, yes.
Yes, it's great to be here, as always, and we hope everyone has been enjoying tonight's festivities and, the moments where everybody comes together, of course, yes. Yes, over there is my lovely cohort. How's your night going so far, sir?
Oh, it's not going too bad. I'm enjoying myself quite nicely. I'm currently enjoying a cup of tea right now, just a spot of tea.
Oh, please tell me you have some crumpets over there with that. That would only complete the experience, of course.
Now, what kind of Englishman would I be if I didn't have one or two biscuits and crumpets laying around?
Oh, of course, yes, the complete gentleman. Of course, me and you grew up together. We went to Oxford, of course, so...
Oh, yes.
Yes, of course, you would know that tea and crumpets go together like ketchup and mustard, of course, on a sandwich.
Absolutely. Well, it depends on the sandwich and the type of meat that you have.
Oh, yes, of course it does, of course. Maybe we're talking about a classic deli meat croissant type deal, or maybe we're dealing with maybe like a little bit classier, maybe some deer meat. The old what is it the Americans call it? Oh, it's venison, of course.
Venison. Yes.
Yes, the old venison. I've had some old venison jerky, of course, one time. Quite the delicacy.
Yes, it is quite, and it's classy too, so, we try to keep everything classy here.
Oh, of course, yes. So shall we move on to our first word, of course, as we continue to engage and open up the imagination to the cutting edge of the English language, of course, as we cover the slang and the ever-evolving terms and words here. Shall we proceed, cohort?
I'm ready if you are.
Okay, alright. Tonight's first word comes to us way of a very classic term, of course. This term dates all the way back to the old Black Plague, of course. You may remember the Dark Ages. Unfortunately, they're called the Dark Ages for reasons. Not much history was, of course, recorded, but the earliest record of this term, of course, goes back to the old Dark Ages, of course. So the first word that we will be expanding your horizon on tonight is, of course, called the menthol. Are you familiar?
The menthol.
Yes, of course. Are you familiar? Do you remember the menthol? Do you remember covering it?
Yes, I believe a little bit. The menthol, the type of cigarette that people smoke to soothe their throat.
Oh, of course, yes. That is the common term for the word today. Of course, the old menthol sensation of an old fag in the old mouth. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, nothing better than an old fag in the mouth.
Yes, of course.
It fills everything, all the glands inside of you with just a white substance that just coats the inside and the lining of your mouth.
Oh, of course, yes. So today...
Nothing better than a fag.
We shall be covering the menthol, of course. Here we are. So, as it reads from the old Urban Dictionary, the act of getting fellatio from a woman who just moments earlier ate a bunch of cough drops, thus ensuring a pleasurable, tingly feeling on the male genitalia, of course.
Oh, okay. That's what the old menthol is.
Yes, of course. See, there's actually quite the story here for how the term came to be. During the Black Ages, of course, people were dying of a certain black plague. I believe it's the proper term is the bubonic plague. I believe is what was haunting everybody back then. Fortunately, now we are more advanced and civilized, and of course we have a sewer system and
yes,
quite the obsessiveness of oral hygiene, of course. Yes, keeping everybody rather clean and not quite so diseased as they were back then. But anyway. One of the common terms or symptoms of the old bubonic plague was, of course, the old scratchy throat, you know.
Ah, yes.
Yes, of course, the old scratchy throat and the old bubonic plague. Well, of course...
Go together like ham and Swiss.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, of course, all the women back then would, of course, be taking a menthol-type lozenge. I believe the term throat drop or cough drop wasn't exactly quite in use of circulation of the language back then, but, of course, women would take a menthol-type lozenge and it would... soothe the early symptoms of the old bubonic plague. Well, of course, dating back to the earliest times of recorded history, fellatio has been a thing even since old Adam and Eve were in the old garden, of course, yes. There was one time that Adam, would try to poke Eve on the old shoulder and say, hey, what do you think about giving me a little bit of fellatio, of course, yes.
Yes.
So fellatio goes back to the earliest of times, and then you bring along the menthol lozenge, of course, and that's where the term the menthol came from, is back when people received fellatio during the Black Plague era, of course. Yes, the Dark Ages is where the term originated. So we will move forward here and use the term in a sentence, of course. As used in a sentence, straight out of the Urban Dictionary, this girl gives the worst fellatio. The only way I could make it worth my while was, of course, to have her give me the menthol. So there you go. Of course, the menthol has been... the menthol is, of course, the classic bad fellatio solution, of course. So if you're receiving subpar fellatio, give the girl a couple of holes, cough drops, maybe a Ludens, maybe a Ricola, maybe just loosen up the old throat pipes, have her take it down like a champ, get the old male genitalia, that tingly feeling that we all love and cherish so much, and just get some high quality menthol fellatio.
Absolutely, and you know that the old menthol is, and the reason we bring this to you today, it is the classiest way to get to receive oral sex from a woman to a male. There's just nothing better than the old menthol. Personally, I try to class it up a little bit more. I do have my pubic nether region, the hairs there. I actually have them shaved in a handlebar mustache with a little top hat on top beforehand.
Oh, of course, yes, I remember when you did that. You did that all the way back in Oxford, of course. I was so surprised. You were quite the fashion trailblazer back then.
Absolutely, and you know what? I'm glad that it happened, because back then I used the original version of Nair, which they weren't exactly sure how it worked back then, Nair being the product that burns hair from the follicles on the skin. Now, back in those days, they didn't have as many safety precautions as they have today. So it's permanently, the hair is gone, but I do have that handlebar mustache to this day.
Oh, God, quite the souvenir, of course, from the old party days.
It's an old
it's
scar,
quite exciting. So shall we move forward with our final entry in tonight?
I think we shall.
Oh, quite right there. Of course, Garrett, it's lovely to see you here, and we hope that you have recovered quite well from your old evil within battles with the evil within inside yourself after the old enchilada combo platter. I hear that one's quite the ruckus in the old intestines.
Oh yes, the evil within. If you're talking about the old term of the evil within yourself, then Garrett, they actually make camps for that. And once you leave these camps, you should leave, wanting to have sexual relations with the right gender, and that will get rid of your evil within, Garrett.
Oh, of course, yes. They make many great products to assist with such things, such as a laxative, maybe, or quite the emotium AD, of course, finds. I find that works quite well on the old intestinal tract as well. It tends to stop the old water faucet after I take a seat on the old John, you know what I mean?
Yes, the loo. You fill it up.
Oh, of course. Alright, so we move on to the final entry of tonight's episode, and this is one of my personal favorite entries, of course. This is called the Houdini.
Oh, the Houdini.
Oh, this one requires quite the prep work and, of course, quite the execution.
Well,
but if executed properly, you instantly become a legend in your local community, of course.
Well, I would assume it would take a lot of prep work. I mean, if you're going to name something after the great and infamous Harry Houdini himself, then it needs to be complex I'm assuming there's going to be some art form of escape here.
Yes, of
And-
course. Actually, this one dates back to the man Harry Houdini himself, of course. Yes. So, the idea of the old Houdini. Okay. So, what does it mean? How did it originate? So, as we all know, Harry Houdini is a great celebrity of our past, of course.
The
yes.
absolute best.
The
love him.
absolute greatest escape artist, a man years ahead of his time in the entertainment industry of magic performances, of course.
Except maybe my ex-wife.
Yes.
She got out of this old trap with half my shit, and I didn't even do it.
Wasn't it Houdini that did the famous Niagara Falls escape, of course?
Yes.
I believe that is one of his
That was Houdini.
one of his more proper, more famous tricks that he escaped from, of course. So what did Harry Houdini do to gather an Urban Dictionary entry after him? Well,
Do tell.
This escape was a little bit lesser known, of course, yes. Not quite the notoriety of his older stunts that, the Niagara Falls moment, and I believe he escaped from an exploding barrel once and, garnered much notoriety around the world.
Not all of them can be winners. We all have to start somewhere.
Yes. So in his early days, of course, Mr. Houdini would experiment, of course, yes, with different escape acts and trying to slowly perfect his craft, of course. Yes, he would organize local events and do these acts. So the old Houdini, this is where it all began. This is where he began to get his name, of course, and his famous notoriety around the world. So this is exactly how a Houdini would be executed, of course. So you would have your mate, your spouse or girlfriend, or perhaps just a lovely town slut. You would take her out for a night on the old town, of course, and then
a good old romp through the
a
town.
good old romp, gallop through the downtown area. Have a lovely night. Okay. So each night, of course, ends with a round of arousing and exciting intercourse. Of course, yes. So
Of course, it wouldn't be a great
intercourse,
night
of
without
course, yes. You got to say the old intercourse. But each night begins with an exciting round. Not begins, but of course ends with an old exciting round of intercourse. So it's very important that you do all the prep work beforehand. And in order to use this technique, you're going to need a very close cohort in you by your side at all times. So you need a close cohort that you can trust, that's going to have your back in order to make this trick work. So basically, you get your spouse or significant other. You put her down on all fours, doggy style, of course. I believe is the proper term. Yes. So you begin intercourse from behind. She's on all fours. Make sure that your subject or spouse, whatever you wish to call her, is facing a window of sorts. Yes, she needs to be facing a proper, transparent window. And then you begin your business. You do your foreplay. You begin to, of course, at that point, penetrate, and you begin to enjoy yourself. Just a normal round of intercourse, of course. I love the fact that it says intercourse, of course. It's
Of course.
such a lovely term. So
Seems
anyway,
to be your favorite term.
yes, it does. Of course, I say it so much. But anyway, you begin your round of intercourse, and then at the very precise moment, you begin to call on your cohort, generally a signal of some kind, some kind of silent signal, of course. Maybe an old clap of the hands or spank of the ass, or perhaps maybe just a certain groan of some kind to signal your cohort to then enter the room very, very silently.
Now, I actually have heard of a groan in my travels that it's a sound you make during sex when you want to, if I'll say it this way for lack of better words, tag him in. And if you want, I can actually demonstrate that groan for you now, just to give everybody a sense of how
of
to
course,
do this
paint the
properly.
picture. Paint the picture, cohort.
Oh!
Oh, that was absolutely lovely, of
I
course.
call it the Wilbur.
Yes, there will be. There would be a perfect signal to get your cohorts in there. So then, as my cohort so elegantly put it, you're going to tag in your partner, and at this point, you would then need to perform the most important part of the entire escape. You, yourself, the master Houdini, must find a way to tag in your cohort. You must pull your male genitalia out of the vagina at that point. And then, of course, your cohort, the man that you have quote-unquote tagged in, will then enter in your place without the woman knowing any sort of funny business is going on at this point. So then
now,
what...
it is very important that your cohort, you do want it to be one of your closest ones, but the girth and size of the male genitalia in your cohort is also key. You want to find somebody who is around the same length and girth, or else she may figure out the ruse.
Yes, of course, yes. The ruse, for the sake of the ruse to not be put into shambles, of course, you need to find somebody that is not going to, quote-unquote, change the game. When your cohort enters the subject, it must be something familiar, of course. So probably the best way to do this is get the woman rather geared up, and then, of course, exit, and then the cohort enter. So now, we move on to the second phase of the Great Escape, of course.
Oh, there's two phases
yes,
to this
of course. Here we go. So you must gather your clothing after the successful transaction. You must exit the old room. Put your clothes back on. Exit the facility that you are having quite the night with, of course. Yes.
Yes.
Put your clothes back on. Go, exit the facility. Go stand in front of the window that your subject is facing, the transparent window, and then smile and give her quite the old jolly wave to let her know that you have escaped and that you're waving back at her with a big old smile as your cohort is in there behind her, just
Thrusting and thrusting and thrusting.
thrusting away at the old vaginal canal, of course. So the old Houdini act, of course, he made the exit quite promptly, put his clothes back on, and then went and stood in front of the window and gave an old Houdini wave, thus concluding the Houdini.
Personally, I consider this one of his most famous acts. Now, it's not actually popular, but I love it so much and so dearly.
Yes, this stunt might be socially dangerous, of course. If you,
Yes, of course.
If you get caught in the middle of trying to execute a Houdini, quite the awkward moment might follow. So I would
Yes.
advise to leave this little trick, this little slip, and escape, of course, to the professionals.
Absolutely. Practice makes perfect, and if you don't practice this, it's not going to go over well. Such a small chance.
Yes, absolutely, and of course, to apply this logic to your everyday lives, I would advise not attempting this on a female that has any sort of meaning to you. Perhaps a
Yes.
girlfriend or potential wife, fiancé.
Unless she has the most amazing sense of humor on the face of the earth.
Of course, yes. So I would not advise trying this one on the old girl. Make sure to find someone that you rather don't give quite, excuse my French, a rat's ass what
Ah.
she thinks of such a move, of course. But this will conclude our third installment of readings from the Urban Dictionary. Thank you very much
We
for
hope that
joining
you
us, of
enjoyed it,
course.
and that you have learned a little something about either history or the English language today.
Absolutely. So with this, we conclude the old Menthol and the old Harry Houdini himself. The old Houdini. Quite the trick, but again, quite the feat.
Yeah, so should we hand it back over to the two gentlemen running the show?
Absolutely. I think
they're waiting patiently over
I think they
outside.
are. They're the
All right,
perfect
come on,
little
boys. Come on,
gentlemen
boys.
of it.
We'll hand this back over to you. Are you ready?
Oh, yes, of course it does. They gave us the signal. So with that,
Okay.
thank you for everyone for joining us.
No. You did it wrong. Hold on. The correct signal, like I said, was.
Oh, gosh, yes, of course. There's the signal. So
Hold
with
on.
that,
Hold on. Let me try it. I don't know if I can get it down like you can, man. No, sir. It's. Close enough. Just come on in, boy. Okay.
farewell, everyone.
All right. So yeah, those guys are coming in with another installment. That shit is crazy. I mean, the Houdini. Who the fuck would have thought about that shit?